We have a quorum, and all we have next is to approve the minutes from the July 19th, 2021 meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 3, acceptance of annual reports for the Crime Control and Fire Service districts in accordance with sections 344.207 and 363.207 of the Local Government Code. I believe David Erb and our esteemed chiefs are here to present that information.
Yes, thank you. In the past, this is a report that you would have seen through the report section at the council meeting, but in looking further into the Local Government Code, it requires a being before the district boards, which is comprised of yourselves. So while we were being the intent of the code, now we're to the letter. So with this. So what we're going to provide is information on the financials, and then the chiefs are going to provide just an update on updates of their programs that are going on in the districts. So this first slide, excuse me, let me stand up, shows the balances as of 9/30/2020. It reports on the revenues and expenditures that took place during the year, and then an estimated balance as of 9/30/2021. That's an estimated balance because we haven't finished the audit yet. The audit is going to be, we're working on the work papers now, and the audit field work happens in January. So that's why from year to year you might see a difference between the final numbers that start the year and estimated that were presented in the previous year. But, so at the beginning of this fiscal year, which was the end of last fiscal year, the Crime Control and Prevention District had $3.557 million in that. Of that amount, some of it was restricted and some of it was restricted non-spendable. The restricted is meant to be for the use and only for the use of the Crime Control District. The restricted non-spendable is money that's already been spent. So at year end, we typically would have prepaids. So items that we covered in the previous year that we actually are going to incur in the subsequent year. So while we have $3.557 million in reserves, only 3.496 is available for use. During the year, we took in $4.46 million in revenue. Year-to-date expenditures, a little over $3 million, which leaves an ending balance of $4,976,418.56 in the Crime Control and Prevention District. Similarly, with the Fire Control, EMS, and Prevention, we started the year with $2,787,000, excuse me, $2,780,000. We took in $4.6 million in revenues. On the expenditure side, we spent $2.5 million, which leaves us $4,900,209.49. So that's the current financial status of the districts, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding those reserves.
Any other questions?
Nope.
That's clear.
Great, thanks.
All right, an update on the police strategies. So due to COVID, we did have some reduction in positions. Our business information analyst and 2 code enforcement positions went away last year due to COVID. Those were vacant positions, so no one was terminated or laid off. Those were just vacant positions. We continue to hire key positions. What you'll notice in this year's report that's a little bit different than years past, we're holding some of those vacant positions in the Crime Control Fund and not in the General Fund, and I'll explain why in a second. But we're not freezing those positions. As we fill those positions, we move the positions around so that they'll either be in General Fund or Crime Control. But we're still actively trying to fill all those positions. So right now we have detention officers, 1 vacant in the General Fund position, narcotics unit, 1 vacant in Crime Control, street crimes, 2 vacant in Crime Control, and dispatch, 7 General Fund and 1 Crime Control vacant. And if you'll remember last year, mid-year, we did the step pay plans for dispatch. So that was brought into the crime control budget at mid-year last year. And then we added the detention moving forward this year for the step pay plans. Additional supervisors, October, Ms. Barron approved 3 additional supervisors for dispatch and detention. So those funds are out of the crime control fund. And that's why we're carrying the vacancies in the crime control. We're using this salary savings to fund those positions for this upcoming year. So with that, I'll answer any questions on the police strategies.
Any questions?
All right, so for the fire department, we have mostly ongoing funds that have been gone. So we had 9 people hired to raise our shift minimum and put Medic 6 into service. That was in 2013. Those positions are filled. And then we hired partial staffing for Truck 6 when we put it in service, and we hired 10 of those positions are out of the fire control fund. The training tower, so this has been a long time project, but we have got the ILAs agreed on by all 3 cities, and we're working now on the design. But we are finally moving forward with that project. Louisville's share of that building amount is $2,561,165. And our co-carry unit, so at council's direction, we put that in a little bit about mid-year last year. We moved 3 firefighters into this fund for the co-carry unit. 2 of those have finished their peace officer training. The 3rd one graduates this Wednesday, and they're doing, he'll do mini academy and FTO, so probably about February we should have him through his training and really be fully staffed and operational like we are set up. The vehicle and some of the equipment for this position PO was cut when this was started, but as things move in the new day, it's still on order. So it will be coming actually out of this next year's fund whenever it arrives. We're hoping maybe by the end of the year we'll have it. And then some other funding objectives for us. We have continuing education. That was for an outside instructor to come in and do our EMS education. We've used him now. I believe this is starting our 4th year with him, and it's been good. Our PPE and uniforms. So we added funding a few years back for our PPE. It was just the rising cost of uniforms. So this has been supplemental in amounts to our regular general fund budget for PPE and our uniforms, and it's all based on the increasing cost of those things for us. And then our patient care reporting software. For our EMS, we moved into a cloud-based software, and the money coming out of the fire control fund is just the difference in the amount of the ongoing cost that we had budgeted before and then what the cloud-based cost for us. So, and that has got any questions from that?
Who's doing the design on the fire tower?
So we're working right now. We have a company called Fire Blast that does the props, and we're looking at them to see what they can offer. They're doing some building design and have the plans that would prevent us having to do a lot of design work with it. So nothing's been settled, but that's who we're in talks with.
Any other questions?
Sorry we couldn't go longer. We got done early.
All right, do we need to move to accept that, or?
Accept the report.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we just need a motion to accept the reports.
So moved to accept.
Second.
Both of them?
Yes.
Second, both of them?
Yes.
All those in favor?
I'll second. Aye.
Opposed?
I was confused there for a second.
Yeah, well, it's me steering the
See if y'all
ship.
just do this any faster.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. It is 6 p.m. on Monday, November 15th. I am calling this meeting of the Louisville City Council to order and announcing that we have a quorum. First up is the discussion of the regular agenda items and consent agenda items. Council, we're gonna go through that, I think, first here, just because we've got quite a bit on the board. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead and grabbing the agenda. We'll start at item E. Any questions on item F? Item G. Consent agenda. no comments on consent agenda. Regular hearing, item 11. Item 12. Item 13. Item 14. Item 15. Item 16. Item 17. Item 18. Item 19. Item 20. Item 21. Item 21 needs a very specific motion, council. It should be in your packet. Item 22. I do want to add a comment to that. Councilmember Cade has expressed an interest in this particular category. It's near and dear to her heart. I think it's important that we get more representation up there with the United Way, aside from myself and Councilmember Troyer. So I would be interested to have a motion to appoint Councilmember Cade. Item 23. All right, one more time through the council. Any questions or comments? If none, then we will move on to workshop session. Item B, discussion of highway safety improvement program. We have traffic engineer Sagar Medici will conduct the PowerPoint presentation. And Sagar, I apologize for getting the last name with one less syllable than it should have.
But you said it right, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sagar Medici. I'm a traffic engineer with the City of Louisville. Also present with me here today are Ms. Abby Axelson and Mr. Huron Fernando with Kimberly Horn. Kimberly Horn is our consultant assisting the city with the application. First off, we wanted to inform you that we're moving forward with the application in this funding cycle with this program because of the very tight timeline. Tonight, we wanted to apprise council of what this program is about. Texas Department of Transportation recently put out a call for projects for the Highway Safety Improvement Program. The acronym for it is HSIP. The projects selected for funding will be let for construction in fiscal year 2025. What is HSIP? It is a federally funded program that is administered by the Federal Highway Administration. In the state of Texas, it is managed by the Texas Department of Transportation. It is a performance-based, data-driven, results-oriented approach to improve, with the purpose of improving safety on our roadways by reducing the type of traffic crashes that result in fatalities and severe injuries. The methodology employed is systematically identifying the hotspots on our roadway network and applying countermeasures to mitigate those the hotspots. Well, what is the need for HSIP? What is the need for such a program, and how bad really are our roadways? Nationwide, about 39,000 people are killed on our highways and roadways. In the state of Texas, about 3,900 people are killed on Texas highways and roadways. That is 10% of the national. You would notice that the ratio of Texas fatalities is 10% of the national numbers. and it correlates with the population as well. Texas is roughly 10% of the US population. More than 800 people are killed on Texas roadways just walking and biking. There are about 12,000 serious injury crashes that occurred in the year 2020, which is last year. These are the numbers from last year. This happened in the pandemic year, 2020, when actually Texans were driving less. The annual vehicle miles traveled was 10.5% less than the previous year, 2019. So if you see the number, compare the number of crashes from 19 to 20, the total fatalities were up by 7.5%, the pedestrian crashes were up by 9%, and the bike crashes were up by 20%. So the amount of traffic went down, but the number of fatalities went up. That is counterintuitive. And the reason is that, because of lesser traffic, because the roads were relatively empty, people were speeding more on the roadways, and they were getting into wrecks. Looking at that, it seems as if maybe traffic congestion is not such a bad thing if it's causing fewer accidents. We usually prefix the word traffic with some distasteful terms such as traffic or something like that. But maybe we need to say, yay, traffic, because congestion is helping save lives. We know that's never going to happen because congestion costs time and money. November 7th, 2000 marks the last deathless day on our Texas roadways. That was 21 years to this day. So every single day in the past 21 years, Texans have lost lives on our roadways. That's not a good thing. It is to be understood that some crashes result from driver error, such as distracted driving or driving under the influence, and there are programs to address the driver error. But many of the other crashes are preventable crashes that can be prevented by making low-cost safety improvements on our roadways. And that is what this HSIP program is about. The HSIP program also supports the TxDOT Vision Zero goals. TxDOT is increasing its efforts into a program called Vision Zero or Road to Zero. This is an initiative that is aimed towards cutting the fatalities, roadway fatalities in Texas to zero by the year 2050. An intermediate goal is to cut the number of fatalities in half by the year 2035. The vision of zero deaths is based on the belief that everyone, no matter how they travel, by car, by foot, by bike, or by bus, they should be able to reach their destination safely, and that every life on our roadways is valuable. In the state of Texas, motorists use about 315,000 miles of Texas highways and roads to conduct travel, and the number of drivers on our roadways is increasing. Texas population is projected to rise from 29 million in 2021 to 47 million by 2050. That is a projected 60% increase. A little while ago, on one of the previous slides, we saw a correlation between the population and the number of traffic crashes and fatalities. If the vulnerabilities of our roadways and safety concerns of our roadways are left unchecked, there's a good chance that the number of fatalities and crashes will grow proportionally with the population increase in Texas. Well, how do we attain these HSIP goals? HSIP program uses a data-driven, strategic, results-oriented approach to improving highway safety by identifying the hot spots and which are the problem areas of our roadways. It is a data-driven approach because projects are selected based on the crash history, traffic volumes, and roadway geometrics. The questions that are considered for evaluation are, in the past 3 to 5 years, where are the high crash locations on our roadways? What are the contributing factors for those crashes? And what mitigation measures can be employed to mitigate some of those contributing factors and what's going to be the cost. It is a strategic approach because each identified HSIP safety project is evaluated based on a cost-benefit analysis. The ones that have the higher safety to cost ratio are picked for construction. It is results-oriented approach because even completed projects that are 3 to 5 years after completion are evaluated and subjected to a cost-benefit analysis using 3 to 5 years of before and after crash data, 3 to 5 years of before and after average daily traffic, and the actual construction costs. So the projects are evaluated before they're picked for the HSIP consideration, and they're evaluated once they're completed as well. The performance metric that is used to conduct the benefit cost analysis is called the Safety Improvement Index, or SII. SII is a slightly complex mathematical formula that takes into account the number of preventable crashes, the type of the preventable crashes, whether they were crashes that were fatality, non-incapacitating, or incapacitating crashes, and the cost savings from those crashes, the projected service life of the roadway, and the reduction in maintenance costs, among other factors. SII, in its most basic form, is the ratio of the savings that we get from preventing those crashes to the cost, benefit over cost. The higher the savings, the higher the SII score. The higher the construction costs of making the improvements, the lower the SII score. So TxDOT prefers to see a high SII score to fund traffic projects. TxDOT process is that projects with SII index score over 1 are taken into consideration. However, TxDOT indicated that based on past experience, they like to see the SII index in the double digits. Selected projects will be let in the fiscal year 2025. The Dallas district has funding of $21.8 million for on-system projects and $6.2 million for off-system projects. Projects will compete at a district level instead of a statewide. So the cities in the TxDOT Dallas district will be competing for those funding dollars. We are in the TxDOT Dallas district, and our local area office is the Denton area office. So for this application process, we'll be working with the Denton area office. The application timeline, the TxDOT call for projects was issued on September of this year, and the application deadline is November 17th, which is this Wednesday. TxDOT requirements for HSIP applications are that the utilities and the right-of-way need to be clear. Utility relocation, any utility relocation will be the local agency's responsibility. And for such projects, it is very minimal. Utility relocation is very minimal or none. And then the actual design cost for the project will be the local agency's responsibility. And the construction costs are paid by TxDOT, and the share of the construction costs is dependent on whether it is an on-system or off-system project. If it is an on-system project, TxDOT pays for 100% of the construction costs, and if it's an off-system project, TxDOT pays for 90% of the construction costs. And TxDOT also bids and lets the project for construction. Kimley Horn, our consultant, looked at, did an evaluation of the locations in various locations in Louisville. They have researched the past 3 years of crash data, and they have come up with about 12 locations on this list and identified with an SII score and the type of crashes. And the project that we chose for this funding cycle is the intersection of State Highway 121 Business and FM 544. Why did we choose State Highway 121 Business and Farm to Market Road 544? Because of the high number of crashes. In the past 3 years, we had 19 crashes at this location. 2 of the crashes were non-incapacitating crashes, and then 2 crashes were incapacitating crashes, and 17 were non-incapacitating crashes. And fortunately, we didn't have any fatalities at this intersection. The projected SII score, the preliminary score, is greater than 30. And State Highway 121 Business is also a very busy roadway. The amount of traffic on this roadway is very high, and it operates at a failing level of service during the evening rush hours. And the upcoming Crown Center development on the south side of Business 121 requires that we need to have, this intersection needs to have safety improvements for pedestrians and motorists alike. And that's the reason why we picked this intersection. The proposed project improvements are advanced warning signals, especially coming from the west, from the colony. Installing the advanced warning signals will provide a warning for the motorists that are entering the town. Signal improvements to improve the efficiency on the roadway, pedestrian improvements, and better signage and striping. It is to be noted that the HSIP program does not pay for paving repairs or repaving work. There are some, the project coming from the west, there's some potholes on State Highway 121 Business, but they not being the contributing factor for the accidents cannot be paid for with this program. We have to work with TxDOT separately on that. In summary, HSIP is a good program that could save valuable lives. Federal monies are available to take advantage of and systematically make improvements to our roadways. Local agencies would need to contribute a small match towards the design costs and TxDOT staff time. We only selected one project location for this funding cycle because of the funding limitations, and we wanted to see how the program works. This is a pilot project for the city of Louisville, and if the program works well, then staff intends to continue to collect data and apply for more locations in future funding cycles. Moving forward, now that staff is aware of these problematic intersections, it will be necessary to budget funding to address the other locations, either through city budgets or state, federal programs like HSIP.
Council, we have any questions? I do like the data-driven methodology on this. I think if we start looking at this, as you mentioned, at other projects within the city, it gives us a great way to prioritize. Not that they're not all important, but limited funds, limited time. So,
sure.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the report. Item C, discussion of multifamily inspection program update and fee revisions. The Director of Neighborhood Services and Inspections, Mr. Chris McGinn, will conduct the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Council. So I was going to speak with City Council tonight, Mayor, about some of our updates that we've done to our multi-family inspection program. So very excited to discuss with you all the changes that we've made, and coming, just to let council know, we'll be coming to you all with some ordinance updates in this particular area, hopefully by the first quarter of 2022. There's a lot that's happened with the program. We originally discussed this City Council retreat of 2019 and kind of gave some updates in 2020, but we also had the pandemic, and there was a point in time where we were just inspecting vacant units, and there was a period of time where we stopped inspections during the pandemic. So here to come back with a fresh start and kind of talk to council about some of the changes that we've already made. I'm going to talk about a little bit about our current apartment stock and statistics. And as of midnight last night, all of those are off with the addition of the apartments that are in Castle Hills. But I'll give you a general idea of kind of what we're looking at right now. The history of the multifamily inspection program, and then kind of what was said back in 2019 and rehashed in 2020 about the program. I'll also talk to you about our current ordinance and what sort of things are in our current ordinance, and what we've done with code enforcement and what we hope to do moving forward. And also, in addition to that updated ordinance, we'll also have a proposal for a fee increase and also a proposal for a supplemental appropriation for a third multifamily inspector position. And just to let you know that as we're going through the annexation process, we're working on hiring multifamily inspector number 2. Current multifamily housing stock, so we've added a few locations since 2019. So we're now currently at 86 locations. The oldest is 1933, the newest is 2020. But you can see that the majority of our apartment units were built in the 80s, between 80 and 1989. Average age is 33 years old. We do know that statistically speaking, that you are going to find more violations at some of the aging apartment complexes, and that includes a longer inspection time, and we do see more complaints from those older apartment complexes. We have seen some cases that an apartment complex may be old, but it's managed really well, and we don't necessarily see that. So I hope that that's a change that we continue to see with a lot of our older apartments. They may be 30, 35 years old, but they're maintained in a way, and complaints are being taken care of that we don't necessarily hear those concerns from our residents. Just to think about the potential impact of this program. We have a little over 23,000 units in Louisville, and based on average family size, we're looking at approximately 58,000 of our residents live in the city, and right now we have one inspector to deal with those issues. We hope to bring on a second inspector and a proposal for a third, but that's roughly 53% of Louisville's population are currently living in apartment complexes. One of the things that I'll mention a little bit later is our fee. Our current fee is assessed on the number of buildings a complex has, and we do one inspection per building. And some of these newer developments that we currently have, for example, Tower Bay Lofts or Old Town, they have a lot of units. With the garden style design of these buildings, but it's basically one building. And so we'll discuss that a little bit more in depth, but right now we would charge a facility basically $125, a $75 inspection fee, and $50 per building, and we'd only be looking at, again, one inspection.
Chris, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So when we're talking about these numbers, would this include the 58,000 Louisville residents? Does this include like extended stay, or is this just apartment complexes?
That's a good question. So this just includes apartment complexes. So
Okay.
this does not include our many. I think we have at least a dozen extended stay locations in Louisville.
Okay, so then the numbers are actually much higher than that, but this program does not apply to extended stay.
That's correct. At this point in time, the program does not apply to extended stays.
Okay.
One of the things also, I talked about the numbers being off a little bit. So with the annexation of Castle Hills, we've added 9 complexes for over 3,000 additional units. So a lot of units under construction in Louisville, also a lot that have been built in Castle Hills, and a lot under construction. History of the program. So we've defined multifamily dwelling complexes or apartments as basically any occupied unit that has 3 or more dwelling units by 3 or more families living in independent dwelling units. And that's pretty much the standard for our survey cities of, we're not looking at duplexes here, but we're looking at anything larger than that. And we do have some pretty small buildings that have 3 units, or 4 or 5. So those would actually fall under this program for annual inspections. Currently, the program is written under the fire code. It was originally, back in 2004, administered by Fire Prevention, and they had 1 employee that was handling those concerns and the program. It worked rather well because it was being administered by 1 individual, and shortly thereafter it was moved over to building services, where the task was shared with multiple building inspectors. But because of council direction in 2019, we moved the program to code enforcement with 1 dedicated inspection officer. That inspection officer is reporting to our chief code enforcement officer. Currently, this program brings in about $160,000 of revenue per year. And again, we're looking at these 86 complexes. So the current ordinance, you currently need to have an inspection, a certificate of inspection. And that facility would have to have a passing inspection, and those inspection fees were due within 45 days. Again, we're inspecting 1 unit per building, chosen at random, and if we were finding violations, we could inspect additional units. For basic violations, we were having those violations addressed and re-inspected within 30 days, and subsequent re-inspections would be scheduled within 10 days after that. We also have certain health and safety situations where we would require correction before that 30 days, of course. Like, for example, the tenant doesn't have water, or there's a sewer backup and they can't flush their toilet. So there are a few situations where we wouldn't necessarily go through that process, but we do have our current city ordinance that addresses overcrowding depending on the amount of bedrooms and the amount of occupants that we see. The property management companies are usually pretty proactive about this. They have the individuals that are living there listed on the lease, but we have received complaints, and we've had to reach out to the property manager, but they've been very responsive to that. And also have the ability for reinspection fees to be charged. So just talking about city council retreat back in 2019, and we kind of provided some updates in 2020. We've added a dedicated multifamily inspector position. Mr. Jay Purnell, he's done a great job working with our chief code enforcement officer, Bobby Shooter, and moving the program to building inspections to code enforcement. I've seen some really great things come out of this, in that code enforcement is pretty comfortable following things through the process. Setting things up for a reinspection, leaving final notices, issuing a warning citation if possible, and unfortunately, if we get to the point where we issue a citation, their custom and their comfort level is following things through the process. And setting up a program using laserfish forms. That's what we use to inspect. That all these violation notices, all these certified letters that we're sending, all of that goes into our repository. So all the data is there if we need it, if we have questions about what's going on. It's all organized, it's all in one place. That has continued to allow code enforcement to work very efficiently with this program being set up in their department, in their division. Also, the direction from City Council in 2019 was to increase the multifamily fee. We were looking at surveys back then, and the data has not changed all that much since then to end up at that $13 per dwelling unit, and that's total dwelling units of the apartment complex. And we'll get into the fee survey here in a little bit. And then also, we adopted the International Property Maintenance Code in 2012. That was the first time that we adopted that ordinance, and this allows us to have many tools when we're looking at violations in apartment complexes that we did not have before. So when the program was going on in 04, we didn't necessarily have these specific guidelines. And so what we've done, because we have adopted this code, we've adopted the 2012, and then I think we're at the 2018 now. We've tied our current inspection program under violations listed in the International Property Maintenance Code. And then also our overall, once this fee proposal, once council takes a look at this, what we'd like to be able to do is inspect a total of 5% of all units. So again, when we're looking at some of these constructions and we're looking at one inspection per building, it may be a better representation of what's really going on there. For example, if we were looking at a location that had 300 units and we're inspecting 5% of those, then 15 inspections would basically give us a better picture of what was going on in that particular location. So changes that we've made since retreat, moving things over to code enforcement, that's gone really well. And I'd mentioned a lot of these, but having a specific uniform inspection checklist, and really once these particular violations are listed, the inspector has the ability to set up his reinspection date. So he's emailed that, hey, this is my reinspection date. I'm going to be back on this particular day. And again, all of these violation notices are basically issued as mail, certified mail, taking it all the way through the process. So I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about some of the success stories that we've had with the program so far. And just looking at some of the violations that we see, there could be, not only does this look at internal inspections of units, but we're also looking at the exterior of the building. What does the trash area look like? Is the parking lot a mess? Are there drainage issues? Are there, how's the exterior of the building? Does it need to be painted? In some of the cases, some of the vents were missing on some of the units that they fixed. We would get complaints about raw sewage and some of these lateral lines that were collapsed. And, there were certain situations that we were getting into where maybe a permit needed to be pulled. And then we would work with building services to kind of make sure that everything was being handled appropriately. Broken windows, cracked windows, screens missing on windows, those sort of things. We've had a lot of success with the program in a lot of different areas. So on this, y'all kind of get the joke here. I didn't have a violation picture of how dark it was, but I think this kind of tells me what I was seeing. I was able to team up with the police department, and I saw some of these apartment complexes at night, and some areas literally were this dark. You know, you wouldn't see building lights being maintained, you would not see parking lot lights being maintained, and so, you know, we'd have situations where, you know, I didn't realize that this was an issue until I was there at night, and, you know, getting some feedback from PD, yeah, this is a problem in a lot of these areas, and I'm like, really? Well, tell me what locations, what are you dealing with, what are you seeing out there? And so now we have kind of an open line of communication between our neighborhood resource officers and our chief code enforcement officer on, you know, are there some violations that they're seeing? Are there broken windows? Are there missing stairs? Are there are some of these buildings not well lit? And so in this particular apartment complex, we'll say apartment ABC, you know, we were kind of going through the process and had a lot of violations. You know, some of these violation citations were issued, and in the meantime, there was they had sold the property and worked with a new owner. The new owner was aware of the violations in this particular case, and so just had a lot of success with the program in dealing with some of the issues that we're seeing. But just a lot of good feedback from basically the police department, and just having that open line of communication. Discussing some of the proposed changes. You know, we want to relocate the multifamily ordinance to Chapter 4, and that would have all that updated information in there. That code enforcement would be the designated authority to administer the program. We also wanted to add a license requirement instead of certificate of inspection. So in the example that I had talked to you earlier, where we were going through the process and unfortunately we had to issue citations, but that was the case. In the meantime, the owner of the property sold the property, and so we're sitting there with pending fees, right? Because they can't pay for their inspection until they have a passing inspection. Well, if we have this license, we've got this ongoing process for, we're issuing a license, we're gonna do one inspection per year, we're collecting our fees, and then over here on this side, we're doing our annual inspection process, or we're doing an inspection based on a complaint. And you know, both processes can move along simultaneously, and we're not waiting for that location to pay a fee for a passing inspection. Again, using the International Property Maintenance Code as a reference. Also in the International Property Maintenance Code, we have the ability to address overcrowding issues. We want to increase the number of units inspected. So again, our one inspection per building isn't necessarily working for us, but we did want to also have a proposed fee increase to match our survey cities. So looking at this, there's a lot to look at here, but I wanted to point out a couple of things up front. Is that there's only a few cities that are currently doing assessing their fees by building, and so you can see Louisville, McKinney, also I think that there may have been one other city, Fort Worth, that was assessing their fees per building. And there's also some cities that they say they have a multifamily inspection program, but they're not doing internal inspections, or they may be only doing inspections based on complaint. So I just wanted to draw attention to those particular things, in that really the cities that are doing internal inspections, you know, they are assessing a fee per total units of that apartment complex. One thing I will say about Mesquite is that they had mentioned on their website 2 times per year that they're doing inspections, but the ordinance didn't really mention even a required annual inspection. So also You know, I think some of these you may see like by request only. You know, they may be handling the program on complaint basis only. So anyway, you know, the cities that are doing internal inspections and they are setting those goals of like 5% inspections, I think that's the way to go. The way Carrollton has it set up seems very reasonable, and looking at that fee, it's kind of middle of the road. So as directed by City Council in 2019, you know, this $13 fee kind of still holds based on some of this updated survey information from the Greater Dallas Apartment Association survey. And what we did was we kind of spot checked Muni code just to see if this information was actually correct based on their survey. So current fee versus proposed fee. And it looks like I had some spacing issues here, but again, the methodology doesn't scale well for new developments, you know, such as Tower Bay or Old Town, you know, one building, many units. And so, you know, our fee doesn't necessarily make sense for those types of developments. In addition to that, you know, our current annual revenue is, as I mentioned, $163,000. With the addition of Castle Hills now, we're looking at revenue of $173,500. But with this proposed fee, middle of the road, what our survey cities are charging, this is $13 for total dwelling units. We're looking at an annual revenue of a little over $300,000. And with the addition of Castle Hills, annual revenue projection of $338,000. And in addition to that, you know, we'd like to establish an internal policy that we want to inspect 5% of all units. And then also handle some of these concerns on a complaint basis where we would do an internal inspection. So what is the cost of an additional multifamily inspector? And so I apologize, I have a typo here. Total ongoing costs are actually $86,728.34. So we have some one-time costs here, a little over $30,000. And then the cost, salary and benefits, and some of these other miscellaneous fees associated with an additional position, we're looking at a little bit more than $86,000. And, you know, the benefit that you'd get from having this inspector and have the possibility of covering this with the revenue and the benefit that City of Louisville residents would get from this, I think, definitely seems like a possibility based on the revenue projections. So next steps on this, I hope to come back to City Council the first quarter of 2022 and have that proposed ordinance update, which would move everything from fire prevention, where it's written that we're a couple divisions off now, where it's located now in code enforcement, tie the program into violations associated with International Property Maintenance Code, and basically have that license information in there as opposed to certificate of inspection and how those fees are required. And also, at the same time, with this ordinance change, I'll have a proposal for a fee increase to the $13 per total units of an apartment complex, and also a supplemental appropriation to this year's budget for a multifamily inspector position. Any questions from City Council?
Just one, Chris.
Sure.
Will we be getting a report to make sure we're hitting that 5% number, like after we get everything set up, just to know that we're hitting our goals?
Sure. We have the possibility of, since this inspection program is created in Laserfish forms, we could create some sort of metric where we'd have total number of units, and then since these inspections are done, with forms, you could have like an ongoing count of how many inspections, maybe after 1 year, we would post what percentage of units that we've been able to inspect, or maybe how many units have been inspected since the ordinance has been updated.
I think that would be great. Thanks.
Sure.
Sounds like a great dashboard item. Council, other questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, of the 86 units, how many are to comply with the regulations and the comments that you provide to them?
You know, I don't necessarily have a percentage for you, but I think annual inspections do make a difference. And I think that because they know we're coming and they start to get familiar with those types of things that we're going to be looking for, it's almost like because they know we're doing routines and inspections, they're ready for us. I would say that the majority of apartment complexes probably have some sort of violation. But again, you know, we know those handful that have those serious violations or that we are getting complaints for. Something that's interesting about apartment ABC is that, you know, as we've gone through the process and we've seen basically a change in ownership, all of a sudden some of those complaints and those calls aren't coming in anymore. So that tells us that that new property manager knows that, you know, we're going to be holding these apartment complexes to a certain standard. We're going to be coming in to do those inspections, and those complaints are addressed before they even come to us.
Thanks.
Council? I think, to my mind, that's one of the defining things that I really like about this program is that we don't put the resident in the middle of it. You hear horror stories where owners, you know, will try and find out who's complaining and there'll be retribution. This eliminates that, or at least greatly reduces it.
Right.
So,
A lot of times these complaints are anonymous. Sometimes if it's somebody complaining about a unit, we may do an inspection of the building.
yeah.
You know, what is a way that we could do something to enhance the life of over half of Louisville's residents? And I think this is it. I think this is a good way to do it.
No, I appreciate the program. Thank you so much for your time. Look forward to seeing that brought back. All right. We have nothing more in the workshop session, so we're going to take a brief break. We will return to regular session at 7 p.m. A lot of good energy in the room tonight. It's exciting. All right, it is 7:01 p.m. I am calling the regular session of the Louisville City Council to order. We have a quorum. And Councilmember Meredith, if you would please lead us in the invocation.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Please join me in a pledge to the American and Texas flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Well, I was about to go with the Texas first and the American second.
Item C, canvass of the bond election. We will canvass the election returns for the City Council bond election. City Secretary?
So I'll read the results.
Yes, please.
Votes for were 2,523. The votes against were 673. So the bond election passed almost overwhelmingly.
Almost 4-1. We need to entertain a resolution declaring the results of the city bond election. Council, if I could have a motion to approve it.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes 5-0. We have approved it. All right. I think we're going to hold off on item D for just a moment because we need something before we can do that. Let's go ahead and go to presentation B. Our Louisville Poet Laureate, Yoon Soon Nam, is here today to present us with an original composition that I got to hear earlier today, celebrating the annexation of Castle Hills into Louisville.
Welcome this new day. Look at Castle Hills, an upscale place to live, work, and play. A mixed-use community annexed by Louisville. Remember November 15, 2021. After a long wait, we celebrate the day of full annexation. The doors of a blessing are widely open to both Castle Hills and Louisville. Welcome, Castle Hill residents. You are the family of Louisville. Enjoy your city with a rich heritage. The winds of change are blowing. Can you see public improvement and new businesses are blooming? Can you hear the sound of a creative environment is shifting the atmosphere? Live abundantly, work passionately, play freely, more today than yesterday. Welcome this new day. The city of Louisville is growing in population among the 30th largest cities in the state of Texas. We have a long, bright future ahead. Thank you.
For those who don't know, we've had a poet laureate position now for maybe 5 years. But it is a program that we started up. Our previous arts director came to us with it, and we've enjoyed the fruits of that for a few years now. It's great to be able to have these types of things to commemorate all the big milestones. All right, we're going to move back to item A, presentation. We actually have today the Salvation Army here to present the National Red Kettle Kickoff, and I get to do something fun here today. So if you guys wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about the Red Kettle Kickoff and what we've got going on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Captain Ben Godwin. I'm the new pastor and administrator of the Salvation Army here in Louisville. It's my pleasure to be here. This year, the Salvation Army's theme is Hope Marches On. Over the last year, we've seen some of the greatest struggles that our communities have ever seen before with the COVID-19 pandemic. And ultimately, what people are looking for is hope. Hope that will continue forward with them going into a new year. Just blocks from this place, we serve regularly over 200 families who are seeking food and clothing each week. We also serve meals, and we serve those in need of financial and rental assistance. This is a weekly and ongoing problem, but as Christmas comes up, we see that even more problems arise for families in need. Christmas is a difficult time for so many in this country. It's a time where they choose whether they want to pay their rent, whether they want to feed their family, whether they want to have presents under the Christmas tree for their children. And the Salvation Army has the opportunity to help those families not have to choose one of those, but get to choose all of those. Just last year, the Salvation Army served over 300 families through the Angel Tree program. And that Angel Tree program is funded by, you know it, the Red Kettles. And today, we kicked off our Red Kettle campaign for 2021. So today is the first time you would hear this, and I'm so sorry, you'll be hearing it at least until December 24th. You'll be seeing kettles such as these placed at gas stations, maybe donut shops. These are our counter kettles. And you'll be seeing the larger versions of those with our stand and our signage, Hope Marches On, throughout the neighborhoods in Walmarts, Sam's Clubs, Hobby Lobby, Nebraska Furniture Mart, and so many others. So what does that mean for you, the City Council, the esteemed members, well, we need your help. This money is not raised out of our own pocket. It comes with great difficulty. It comes with people giving of their time and their effort to stand and ring that bell. Louisville is a very unique place. Louisville is completely and 100% volunteer served. So it means that you yourselves have the opportunity to gather at a local store, ring a bell, sing a song. If you'd like, you can bring your horse. I've seen that done before. If you have a horse and you want to teach it how to ring a bell, that is possible, and we have seen it. But we need your help in serving so that we may raise dollars to help this incredible community. Because each dollar that goes into that kettle comes back into this community so we can serve this community throughout the next year. Thank you to the mayor and city council who have already launched our mayoral challenge. That will be coming up, I believe, December 15th. And that will be the mayor himself and some others gathering to challenge other mayors to see who's the best, which we already know, to help us raise money. So thank you to each of you, and thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
And just to kind of get this thing started, and I don't, my apologies, but I remember Mayor Carey being the one that started this, but then again, Mayor Carey's the first mayor I really got to interact with. So it has been tradition at Louisville City Council meetings that we divest our pockets and add some greenery to that little red kettle. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna stand up, and I would encourage everybody here to do so. I'm gonna walk around over there. Y'all come on, follow me, let's make this happen.
Been nice to have some notice.
It's obvious. How much you putting in?
I don't know what tradition is, but I might give you the opportunity to
Oh,
ring the
well, I
bell
can
as
ring the
well.
bell.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, we'll do that.
Bunch of silver.
I need a horse song. So I'm double checking the calendar. It's going to be the 11th. And the reason that's an important day is because that is my birthday.
Yes.
So, might want to come on out and see me. I'll be ringing the bell on my birthday.
And Sam.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Mayor Gilmore, you do that quite well.
Make noise.
So last year, I actually found the secret to doing this for a long period of time. If you take a zip tie and you put it around your finger and the bell, you can just walk around all day.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Pretty good.
Thank you all so much for
Thank you.
participating and supporting the community. The Red Kettle campaign is always a great time for a great cause, so we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you let us know?
And we will be formally challenging the cities of Flower Mound, Highland Village, Bartonville, Capel, and the Colony to join us in the Red Cattle campaign this year, so I'm looking forward to that. What's that?
Which we won last year.
Oh, yeah, we did win quite handily, by the way, so we've got some bragging rights that we got to defend. So, all right, item E, public input session. Consideration of the proposed districting plan for the city's residential council district boundary lines for city council elections based on 2020 census data. The full purpose annexation of the area encompassing Denton County freshwater supply districts 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1H, also known as the Castle Hills development, into the city of Louisville triggered the addition of a 6th council position and the adoption of residential council districts. The proposed districting plan sets forth the new residential council district boundary lines for city council elections based on the 2020 census data. All written and oral input will be considered at the public input session. A copy of the proposed districting plan is and has been available on the city website at cityoflouisville.com, About Us, Mayor and Council, Residential Districts, and at the City Secretary's Office, Louisville City Hall, 151 West Church Street, Louisville, Texas, 75029. It's recommended that the City Council conduct the public input session on the proposed districting plan set forth in the caption. I do have several comments that came to me online. So I'm going to go ahead and read those. Nicole Binkley, I support the decision to move to residential districts. Not only do I support it, but believe it's the only way to get a diverse and equitable city council. Marcelo Borges, I am in favor of having residential districts represented by council places. However, I do not support the fact that the eligibility to run for the places is solely based where the candidates live. In other words, any Louisville resident should be eligible to run for any council place. However, the specific place they are elected represents a specific district. Stephen Coble, I would like to see an overlay of what the districts are now versus proposed. District 3 appears to be disproportionate in size and appears to be the majority of the city's working families as opposed to higher income areas. With limited info, this map raises more questions than answers. What is being hidden? Gene Elliott, I support the idea and I think it is fair and just for a city the size of Louisville. George Meredith, I believe the voters in each district should only vote for their own district. Even though the candidates can only come from that district, I don't like voters from other districts having a say in who is chosen in my district. I smell power coming from special interest groups that can undermine our district interests. I don't buy the argument that the citywide voting for each district would better serve the city. Council members voted by its district voters only would care about the city also. Raymond Martin, the boundaries look good. Thanks for all the hard work getting Castle Hills into Louisville and the due diligence surrounding the effort. A special thank you to Brenda Martin and Donna Barron and the City of Louisville staff for their support and hard work that has made this all come together. Gary Linebarger, it seems to be a good plan. Dan Tovar, what impact to property tax? Dan, I'll answer that one, none. Monica Johnston Miller, how is 1841 Chisholm Trail in Zone 5? It is clearly in Zone 1 or maybe 2, but most of Zone 5 is on the east side of the highway. Patricia Lambert, this sounds like a good plan, but curious as to how these districts were drawn. On another topic, when are we going to get a supermarket on the east side of I-35? I don't mean an El Rancho Mercado or Michoacan, but something that has had the items I routinely buy. Right now I'm driving to Capel or Flower Mound to do my grocery shopping, but will not always be able to do this. Jennifer Setter, this sounds like a great idea except for all the signs that already go up all over the city. With the new plan, I would expect that there will be exponentially more signs littering every available field and spot of earth. That part does not sound exciting in any way. Suleiman Sultan Ali, no comment submitted. City Secretary, were there any other additional comments?
Mayor, I've received no cards. I just want to make sure no one in the audience wished to speak on this and had not submitted a card yet. Mayor, I do not believe there are any other comments.
All right. Council, I'll entertain a motion to close the public input session.
Move to close the public input session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you please vote. The public input session is now closed by a vote of 5-0. Thank you. Item F, public hearing. Consideration of an ordinance granting a zone change from Old Town Mixed Use 2 District to Planned Development Old Town Mixed Use 2 District with 3 associated variances related to parking and landscaping on .1223 acres legally described as South Village Edition, Block A, Lots 6 through 9, located at 206, 208, 210, and 212 South Village Way, as requested by Patricia Fant McAdams, the applicant, on behalf of Henry Ramani, RCD Groups, LLC, the property owner. 21-03-1-PZ. South Village is a mixed-use development situated directly south of the core of Old Town. The original development featured 51 single-family lots, 12 townhouse lots, and 1 mixed-use building with ground floor commercial and 16 condominium units on the second and third floors with limited dedicated parking. To address parking concerns, the applicant proposes to convert 4 undeveloped single-family lots directly west of the mixed-use building to a 3-story building with 8 additional condominium units above 16 garage parking spaces on the first floor. The following 3 variances are requested: to allow 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling in lieu of the required 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, B, to waive the required 10-foot landscape strip adjacent to all public and private streets, and C, to waive the required shade tree every 50 linear feet within the landscape strip. The The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval 6-0 on October 19th, 2021. It is the recommendation that the City Council approve the ordinance and 3 associated variances set forth in the caption above. Mr. Richard Lutke is our planning director and is here available for questions. I do have a comment card from Miss Patricia Font, 111 Hillside Drive, Louisville, Texas, and she is here to speak. She does not wish to speak on the item, but she is in support. Or you're here to speak. There we go. I got it. She does wish to speak, and she's going to speak in support. So, Ms. Font, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Patricia Fant, and I am here just to answer any questions that you guys might have. So.
Council?
I have some comments. I don't have any questions. If anybody else has questions.
If you would like Patricia to be able to answer any of those or address any of those now, or is that the expectation?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
It sounds like we have some council comments, so.
So, Mayor, I would actually, I actually have no issue with the proposed zoning change of what we're proposing to do here. I have some concerns related to the parking variance that's requested. It is my understanding that the purpose of this rezone is to essentially help alleviate a parking issue that has come up out of the Awesome Center development. I'm just not sure that addressing the parking issue is going to be accomplished by reducing the parking requirement from 2 spaces a unit to 1.5 spaces a unit. It seems very counterintuitive to me. And, you know, since it's such a small little piece, I have some concerns that I believe they're all 2-bedroom condos, for us not to have 2 spaces per unit. Concerns me over time that that's going to be an issue and that we're really just fixing one parking problem by creating another. I think that maybe it seems like we could just do a little bit of working there to get that where it needs to be. I think it's appropriate for this development to have 2 spaces per residential unit in the in this development, and with that, I would actually move to continue this public hearing and request staff to work with the applicant to alleviate some of those concerns with the parking that I have.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
Councilmember, can we have a date certain for the continuance?
Richard, what would be a good timeline for you?
We can work with the applicant for the next council meeting on December the 6th.
December the 6th, okay.
Do I need to add that to my motion?
Please.
Okay. I move that we continue this public hearing to the December 6th meeting.
All right, and I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Second.
You're good with that?
Yep.
Councilman Troyer, thank you. All right. All those in favor? Well, please vote. It's the computer. It tells me whether or not you're in favor or not. Motion passes 5-0. Oh, I did that backwards. We need to close the public hearing. Let's put that aside. I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, so, all right.
I move to close the public hearing.
We're not going to close the public hearing.
But we're going to
Oh, that we did a
it.
continuance, so we're fine. Okay, that's why you didn't
Never
yell at
mind.
me. We'll save it for another time. Awesome. All right, we're good there. Then we're everything's legal and hunky-dory. Thank you, Liz. All right, so we are moving off of item F, public hearing, to item G, Visitor Citizens Forum. Speakers must address their comments to the mayor rather than to individual council members or staff. Speakers should speak clearly and state their name and address prior to beginning their remarks. Speakers will be allowed 5 minutes for testimony. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council is restricted from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Action can only be taken at a future meeting. I do have one email from J.L. Gillam. There are numerous residents on Red Wing that are disabled. The city staff has refused to discuss where the mailboxes are being relocated during the construction. We are requesting a meeting with city staff, the post office, DDM, and the residents to discuss relocation options so those of us who are disabled can access our mail during construction. The meeting needs to be on site, Red Wing, with the post office staff present too. There are at least 5 households with disabled individuals. City Secretary, do we have any other comments posted?
No, sir, we do not.
All right. That takes us out of Visitor Citizen Forum, and we will now move to the consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so request. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card or comment must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. At this time, I do not have any requests to pull anything from the consent agenda. Council, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Consent agenda is approved, 5-0. Regular hearing, item I. 11, consideration of 2 alternative standards to Chapter 17.5-5C of the Louisville City Code, IH35E Corridor Overlay District, related to awnings and window groupings associated with a proposed industrial building on a 15.753-acre lot, legally described as Louisville Square Addition, Block A, Lot 1A, located at 280 East Corporate Drive, zoned Light Industrial District, as requested by Howard Aiken of 280 Corporate LLC, the property owner. This is case number 21-09-5-ALT-STD. On March 1, 2021, alternative standards to the requirements of the IH35E Corridor Overlay District were approved for the layout of this site. At that time, the applicant had not completed full architectural plans and only presented conceptual renderings. The applicant has now requested a total of 3 alternative standards related to the elevations, 2 of which require City Council approval. The first requested alternative standard, which only required Overlay District Board approval, was to reduce the percentage of windows at grade from 40% to 28.6%. On October 19, 2021, the Overlay District Board unanimously approved 6-0 this request with conditions. The remaining 2 alternative standards requiring City Council approval are A, to reduce the required percentage of canopies from 50% to 18%, and B, to allow 11 windows in a grouping without separation by a mullion at least 7 inches wide. On October 19, 2021, the Overlay District Board recommended unanimous approval 6-0 of alternative standard A with the condition that canopies or awnings be added over all windows and doors, and recommended approval of alternative standard B as presented. It is recommended that the City Council approve alternative standard A with the condition that canopies or awnings be added over all windows and doors, and approve alternative standard B as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Lutke is available for questions.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the alternative standard A with the condition that the canopies or awnings be added over all windows and doors, and approve alternative standard B as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 12. Consideration of an alternative standard to Section 17.5-4 of the Louisville City Code, IH35E Corridor Overlay District, for a concept plan that does not comply with the framework plan and associated with the proposed Scooters Coffee, located at 1165 South Stemmons Freeway, legally described as Lakeland Plaza Addition, a portion of Lot 1, Block A, zoned Local Commercial District, as requested by Kevin Dew, ALJ Lindsay, LLC, on behalf of Scooters Coffee, the business owner, case number 21-09-4-ALT-STD. The property is located within the core subdistrict of the IH35E Corridor Overlay District at the edge of Lakeland Plaza facing South State Highway 121 business. The applicant plans to construct a new 752 square foot coffee shop with a drive-through. The applicant is requesting an alternative standard for a concept plan that does not comply with the framework plan for the area and to provide the required 6-foot sidewalk and trees along the frontage of State Highway 121 business. The Overlay District Board recommended unanimous approval 6-0 on November 2nd, 2021. It is recommended that the City Council approve the alternative standard as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Lutke is available for questions, and I do have 2 comment cards. The first is from Wendy Wells, 3928 Valley View Lane, and she does not wish to speak on this item, but is available for any questions. Ms. Wells, I apologize. Are you in support or opposition of this one? Thank you. I also have Tara Thornberry, 18704 Flatstone Court, Dallas, Texas. She does not wish to speak either, but is available for any questions. And I'm assuming, being GHA architects, that you are in support as well. Yes, sir. Okay. Council, if there are no further comments or questions, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the requested alternative standards as set forth in the caption above.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Scooter's Coffee. Item 13, consideration of a variance to the Louisville City Code, Chapter 17, Section 17-30, sale of alcoholic beverages, as requested by Timothy Cesar, General Counsel, Discovery Senior Living, located at 2500 Windhaven Parkway, Louisville, Texas. An application for the legal sale of mixed beverages in restaurants by food and beverage certificate holders only was submitted by the Discovery Senior Living located at 2500 Windhaven Parkway. They would like to allow their residents to be able to purchase beer and wine with mixed drinks on site. The site does not meet the city regulations that require the site to be 300 feet measured in a direct line from the property line of the public school to the property line of the place of business. When measurements extend across public streets, distances shall be measured utilizing street intersections, i.e. this does not include intersections related to driveway entrances. The city's ordinance was patterned after the TABC section regarding distance. Discovery Senior Living is seeking a variance to this regulation. Staff has received a letter from Dr. Rogers, LASD Superintendent, that they have no objection to this variance request being approved. It's recommended that the City Council consider the variance request as set forth in the caption above. I do have a comment card from Mr. Bob Calife, 2500 Windhaven of Louisville. He is in support, but doesn't wish to speak unless y'all have questions.
I did have a quick question. I just wanted to confirm this is not open to the public, so this is just for the residents where they're correct? Yes, okay, thank you. With that, if the school district doesn't have an objection to it, I don't either. I move to approve the variance.
As set forth in the caption?
As set forth in the caption, yes, sir.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 14, consideration of a variance to Section 6-92K of the Louisville City Code to allow front entry associated with the final plat of Greenland Hills Edition, Lot 7R, Block A on .422 acres out of the J.W. King Survey. Abstract number 0696A, Zone Single Family Residential, R 7.5 District, located at 125 Simmons Avenue, being a replat of Lots 7 and 8, Block C, Greenland Hills. This request is to allow front entry on a proposed lot facing Simmons Street, which currently contains all front entry lots and no alleys. The proposed subdivision combines 2 lots into 1 lot. Per Chapter 212 of the Texas Local Government, a public hearing is required for residential replats with associated variance requests. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on October 19th, 2021 and recommended unanimous, many syllables, approval 6-0 of the variance and directed city staff to approve the final plat once remaining deficiencies are corrected. City Council action is now required to formally approve the variance request. It is recommended that the City Council approve the variance request as set forth in the caption above. And Mr. Lutke is available for questions.
Well, Mayor, since I have in the past voiced my objection to the front entry, I felt that it was appropriate that I make this motion and state that this is because it's an existing condition and because of the impossibilities of not being front entry, I move to approve this variance request.
Second. As set forth in the caption.
As set forth in the caption.
And I have a second from Councilmember Troyer. Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 15, consideration of a variance to the Louisville City Code, Section 6-103E, access management, auxiliary lanes for Legacy Northern Gateway Apartments, a 11.1 acre parcel zoned planned development mixed use, PDMU, located at 900 Grandy's Lane, requested by Joseph Hornisher, Kimley Horn, on behalf of the owner. The developer has immediate plans to construct 2 multifamily buildings totaling 296 units and a 2,673 square foot commercial building per the approved plan development. The owner is requesting a variance to waive the required deceleration lane at the driveway for lots that exceed 5 acres. The engineering site plan is currently under review. It's recommended that the City Council approve the variance request as set forth in the caption above. Mr. David Salmon is available for questions. If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the variance as set forth in the caption.
Move to approve the variance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote.
Mayor, oh, there you go.
Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Lee, I think there's some latency in the network. Consideration of a variance to the 1996, this is item 16, by the way, consideration of a variance to the 1996 Castle Hills Agreement, Section V2B, regarding dead-end streets for Castle Hills, Windhaven Parkway, and Josie Lane neighborhood, located west of Josie Lane and along Windhaven Parkway, as requested by Land Design Incorporated, representing the property owner. The subject public road is located within Castle Hills, a newly annexed area within the city of Louisville. Woohoo! In accordance with the amended and restated TERS reimbursement agreement dated August 16, 2021, it is to be developed in accordance with the 1996 Bright Farms agreement. The subject property has been preliminary platted and is currently being final platted with construction plans to build a neighborhood with 84 residential lots. The following variance is being requested to allow for a temporary hammerhead turnaround in lieu of requiring cul-de-sac turnaround for a dead-end street. It's recommended that the City Council approve the variance request as set forth in the caption above. Mr. Salmon is again available for questions.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the variance request as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you please vote. Item passes 5-0. Item 17, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 8, miscellaneous offenses of the Louisville City Code by adding new Article 4, prohibiting urinating and or defecating in public and providing for a defense, providing a repealer, severability, penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency. Louisville police officers have always relied on state law to enforce this type of behavior. Unfortunately, there is no state law specific to urinating and or defecating in a public space. By adding this ordinance, Louisville police officers will have the ability to enforce a more appropriate offense for this behavior if probable cause exists. It's recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Council, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Councilmember Cade. And a second by Councilmember Green. City Attorney, if you would please read the ordinance caption.
This is an ordinance of the Louisville City Council amending Chapter 8 miscellaneous offenses of the Louisville City Code by adding new Article 4, prohibiting urinating and or defecating in public and providing for a defense, providing a repealer, severability, penalty, and an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you would please vote.
I certainly hope this helps.
That passes 5-0. I think the last time I did anything this awkward from the dais, it was with body painting at a restaurant.
Oh, we don't need to know that.
Item 18, consideration of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Louisville, Texas general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $140 million, levying a tax in payment thereof, awarding the sale thereof, and approving execution of one or more purchase agreements, deposit agreements, and escrow agreements, approving the official statement, and enacting other provisions relating to the subject. Staff is planning to issue general obligation refunding bonds this fiscal year in a not-to-exceed amount of $140 million. The purpose of the issue is to refund all of the outstanding debt issued by the city for the benefit of Denton County Freshwater Supply Districts 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1H that is being assumed by the city as a result of the annexation of Castle Hills. The city will also be refunding district debt of 1C that was issued directly by the district. Contract revenue bonds issued directly by District 1A through the Texas Water Development Board will not be refunded because they are a 0% loan. The bond sale will be completed with the issuance of 4 separate series, 2021A, 2021B, 2021C, 2021D. In order to allow flexibility in the sale of those bonds, Hilltop Securities, the city's financial advisor, has recommended the use of a parameters ordinance in issuing the refunding debt. A parameters ordinance allows the city council to authorize the sale of bond obligations at a future date as long as certain parameters are met. This parameters ordinance will provide the city's authorized officer, Director of Finance, pursuant to Chapters 1371 and 1207 of the Texas Government Code, and the parameters of this ordinance, the authority to approve the amount, the interest rates, the price, and term of the bonds authorized hereby, and to otherwise take such actions as are necessary and appropriate to effect the sale of the bonds at a time when most practical and economically feasible. The city's 2020 GO refunding and improvement bonds and 2021 utility refunding and improvement bonds were sold using a parameters ordinance. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption above.
Mayor and Council, we do have Jason Hughes with us tonight from Hilltop Securities. It might be of interest, Mayor and Council, for him to talk a little bit about the process.
Welcome, Jason.
Good evening. Good to be with you. So we have this set up, and I was talking with some people earlier. It's almost surreal to be here, but we've done a lot of work on the front end. What our plan is to actually take this tomorrow to market. We have representatives of the underwriter that are here, so they're going to go out. They will solicit bids for the bonds, and that will be roughly about a 2 to 2.5 hour window. They'll come back and make a bid to underwrite. And then at that point, once they make that bid, we will have sold those bonds subject to approval by the pricing officer. So we have closing scheduled for December 14th. And at that point, that's when we close the bonds. And shortly thereafter, whenever we take over all of that debt. The nice thing about this is we are taking, in many cases, debt that has 5 to 6% coupons, and we're reducing that down to less than 3%. So there is a significant savings by doing this, and this is something that we planned for quite some time. So certainly be happy to add more detail as you'd like.
This man has spent many hours on this project, many hours.
I can't thank Hilltop and you specifically enough for all of the financial advice and navigating this. It's I keep telling people there won't be anything like this in Texas in the foreseeable future. I really appreciate all your help.
Thank you.
Unless there are questions, Council, I will entertain a motion to approve as set forth in the caption.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. City Attorney, if you could please read the ordinance.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Louisville, Texas general obligation refunding bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $140 million, levying a tax and payment thereof, awarding the sale thereof, and approving execution of one or more purchase agreements, deposit agreements, and escrow agreements, approving the official statement, enacting other provisions relating to the subject.
Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you,
sir. Item 19, consideration of an ordinance of the City of Louisville, Texas, defining the boundary limits of the City of Louisville, Texas, resulting from the annexation of approximately 2,568.38 acres. I always love how that's approximately. Comprising all land encompassing Denton County Freshwater Supply Districts 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1H, amending the official map of the City of Louisville, Texas, and declaring an emergency. On November 8th, 2021, the City of Louisville, Texas, and Denton County Freshwater Supply Districts 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1H, the districts entered into that certain third amendment to the Strategic Partnership Agreement, providing for full purpose annexation of all lands within the boundaries of each of the districts. On November 15th, 2021, as authorized by Texas Local Government Code, Section 43.0751, and passed Ordinance Number 0402-21-ORD, providing for, among other things, the annexation of the lands into the city for all purposes under state law at 12:01 a.m. on November 15th, 2021. This ordinance defines the city's boundary limits resulting from said annexation and amends the city's official map. It's recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth above.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption. I can't wait to see the new boundary maps.
Second.
City Attorney, if you could please read the ordinance.
This is an ordinance of the City of Louisville, Texas, defining the boundary limits of the City of Louisville, Texas, resulting from the annexation of approximately 2,568.38 acres comprising all land encompassing Denton County Freshwater Supply Districts 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1H, as more particularly described herein, amending the official map of the city of Louisville, Texas, and declaring an emergency.
Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. We no longer have a hole in the map. As a map guy, I'm really excited by that. Item 20, consideration of an ordinance setting forth the First Amendment to contract an exclusive franchise for collection and disposal of residential garbage, refuse, yard waste, bulky waste, and containerized commercial solid waste, and collection and processing of residential and multifamily dwelling recyclables within the city of Louisville, Texas. On November 16, 2020, City Council approved an exclusive franchise agreement for the collection of residential garbage, refuse, yard waste, bulky waste, recyclables, containerized waste, and multifamily recycling with Allied Waste Systems Incorporated, doing business as Republic Services of Louisville, Republic. This franchise ordinance provided that the cost of disposal for special waste and sludge will be negotiated under a separate agreement. Rather than entering a separate agreement, both parties have agreed to amend the current agreement to establish a cost of service for disposing of sludge at Camelot Landfill. The city charter requires franchise amendments to be read twice, 30 days apart, and go into effect no earlier than 30 days after the final reading. The first reading will be November 15th, 2021. The second reading will be on December 20th, 2021, with the amendment effective on January 19th, 2022. Staff does not anticipate a change in service delivery due to this request. It is recommended that the City Council approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Actually, Mayor, this should just be the first reading.
Oh, it is. Yep, just the first reading. So we won't do anything other than it has been read. Stay tuned next month. Item 21, consider and act upon adoption of a resolution authorizing the acquisition of temporary construction easement for the rehabilitation of the Timber Creek Sanitary Sewer East Trunk Interceptor and the undertaking of all improvements, including but not limited to access to and construction of the project on adjacent property and storage of materials and use of equipment for the project across an area generally along Timber Creek and Lake Point Drive and generally bounded by Business State Highway 121 to the west and the Denton County Transportation Authority rail line on the east, determining the public necessity of such acquisition, authorizing the appointment of an appraiser and negotiator as necessary, authorizing the city manager or her designee to establish just compensation for the property rights to be acquired, authorizing the city manager or her designee to take all steps necessary to acquire the needed property rights in compliance with all applicable laws and resolutions, including establishing just compensation for the property rights to be acquired, and authorizing the city attorney or her designee to institute condemnation proceedings to acquire the property rights if purchase negotiations are not successful, providing for repealing, savings, and severability clauses, and providing for an effective date. To construct and access the project, temporary construction easements need to be acquired for multiple parcel owners. Staff will meet with the property owners to inform them of the pending improvements and provide a copy of the appraisal report. Property owners have previously been notified of the pending project via mailouts. As required by Texas Property Code Section 21.0113, the city is required to first attempt to acquire the necessary acquisitions from the landowners voluntarily through the making of a bona fide offer prior to filing any eminent domain procedure. We have specific language for the recommendation, Council, and we do have Mr. David Salmon available for questions.
If no one has questions, I will read this motion.
Please.
Okay. I move that the City of Louisville, Texas adopt the resolution described in Agenda Item Number 21 and authorize the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire for public use the property described and depicted in Attachment 1 attached to the resolution, said description and depiction being incorporated into this motion for all purposes for the rehabilitation of the Timber Creek Sanitary Sewer East Trunk Interceptor project, including but not limited to access and construction of the project on adjacent property and storage of materials and use of equipment for the project. This vote applies to all units of property described and depicted in Attachment 1 attached to the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you would please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item 22, consideration of an appointment to replace. Go.
I interrupt you. I've just been informed that, can we go back to number 20?
Go back to number 20. What did we miss?
Well, I've just been informed that we usually do pass it on the first reading. It just won't go effective until the second reading.
Just won't be accepted till the second? Okay.
I apologize.
So I will entertain a motion to approve item 20 as set forth in the caption.
Move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. City Attorney, if you would read the ordinance.
This is an ordinance setting forth the First Amendment to contract an exclusive franchise for collection and disposal of residential garbage, refuse, yard waste, bulky waste, and containerized commercial solid waste, and collection and processing of residential and multifamily dwelling recyclables within the city of Louisville, Texas.
Council, if you please vote. All right, and this will not go into effect until after the timeline that was presented. Now we'll go back to item 22, consideration of an appointment to replace Mayor Gilmore on the Denton County Homelessness Leadership Team. The focus of the Denton County Homelessness Leadership Team includes creating stronger community collaboration around community goals to end homelessness, better data collection and sharing, and educating and informing the community about solutions to homelessness and the community impact. The DCHLT is made up of representatives from Denton County, City of Denton, City of Louisville, City of Sanger, board members from homelessness and housing providers, healthcare providers, and members of the United Way of Denton County Board. The City of Louisville appoints 2 members of the team, a council member and a city staff member or member of the community. Mayor Gilmore was appointed to this position when he served as a councilman, and due to an increasing schedule, Mayor Gilmore is requesting that another city council member be considered for appointment to this position. It's recommended that the City Council consider appointing a City Council member to replace Mayor Gilmore on the Denton County Homelessness Leadership Team as set forth in the caption above.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Council Member Ronnie Kay to replace Mayor Gilmore on the Denton County Homelessness Leadership Team as set forth in the caption.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If there are no further comments, Council, if you'd please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Councilmember Cade. I think you'll have a great time on that board. It makes a difference.
Onboarding starts Wednesday.
Item 23, consideration of a resolution extending the declaration of local disaster for public health emergency until 11:59 p.m. on December 6th, 2021. On February 17th, 2021, Mayor Rudy Durham, acting in accordance with authority granted to him under the City Charter and Code of Ordinances and under Section 418.108A of the Texas Government Code, declared a local state of disaster for public health emergency due to concerns related to COVID-19, which the Louisville City Council subsequently ratified, supported, and continued until 11:59 p.m. on November 15th, 2021. Ongoing evaluation of circumstances related to the virus and the updated recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control and the Texas Department of State Health Services indicate that the conditions necessitating the disaster declaration have and will continue to exist for a period extending beyond November 15th, 2021. It's recommended that the City Council consider the resolution as set forth in the caption. Council, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the resolution as set forth in the caption.
All right. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Council, if you please vote. Motion passes 5-0. Item J, reports. Reports about items of community interest regarding which no action will be taken. I have first here the quarterly investment report that was given to council. I don't think we have any need to go through it in the meeting here.
Unless there are questions. Unless there
are questions, yes. I also have submissions of comments in the Public Utility Commission of Texas project number 52373, review of wholesale electric market design.
We do have Mindy who would like to make a few comments on this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what this item actually pertains to. You may recall back in February of 2021, we experienced Winter Storm Uri that highlighted some weaknesses both in our grid and in the market design overall in Texas for our electrical market. What this represents now is a unique opportunity because ERCOT is looking at complete redesign. The Public Utilities Commission of Texas has been tasked with doing that process, and as part of that process, for the first time, we as municipalities have an opportunity to provide comment on what we feel like our priorities are at the local government perspective. And so we have joined with a number of different cities across the state. In your backup, you'll see the list. There's several others that are also included that are currently working through the approval process with their leadership teams on whether they will join us on this commentary. But what it looks like for us is an opportunity to really have an influence on policy moving forward when it comes to the electrical market in Texas. There's 5 main areas that it's focused on that we feel like the Public Utilities Commission should consider. They will be releasing their draft of these market redesign changes coming up on December the 3rd, and then they will receive comments through December the 10th from public stakeholders. The comments that we have drafted, which you will also find in your backup, have 5 main categories that we feel like should be focused on as part of this draft redesign. It's looking at increasing our energy efficiency and demand response programming. This is important because if there's funding and commitment at the state level, that means it trickles down to us at the local level to be able to implement these programs for our residents and our businesses. Looking at diversifying our resource bases in terms of where that electricity is being generated so that we have increased resiliency and increased stability with our grid. And then minimizing that disproportionate impact when we do have power outages. So we're not seeing certain communities or certain parts of the communities that are bearing the brunt of those outages. And then considering connecting with adjacent grids just to give us some redundancy and some safety at those unfortunate times when we do have an emergency that occurs. And then finally, through this redesign process, continuing to have that robust stakeholder process that includes that input from our local communities as well. So those are the 5 main focus areas that we feel like should be embedded in that new market redesign process for ERCOT. And I'm happy to answer any brief questions you may have, or if you'd like a deeper dive, you can reach out to Assistant City Manager Claire Powell, and we can schedule a workshop and go into a little bit more information if that's something that you're interested in as well.
I would love a workshop because I would like to see to minimize the severity of the disproportionate impacts of power outages on customers with the way we had the sitting blackout on Louisville and the update that we got after that subsequently, which seemed like there was no plan in place to actually fix that, and that it was basically operated by a computer and no person had any oversight on that. There are a lot of questions that I have over that aren't answered today. And I would love to kind of get some questions out there for us to at least ask with these other cities, because I have a concern that they haven't answered these questions from 2021 and haven't resolved the issues from going back to 2011. So, you know, I would love to be a part of that and have something to the council presented. Thank you. That's it.
We'll do that, Council. We'll look at available workshops, and I'll talk to Mindy about when would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to start over here with Mr. Lukey and kind of work our way around for reports, if you don't mind.
It's my pleasure to share with you a great announcement. The City of Louisville has been recognized by the Texas chapter of the American Planning Association for planning excellence. We were recognized with 33 other Texas communities on Wednesday, November the 3rd, at the annual State Planning Conference in Fort Worth. We have received this honor every year consistently ever since that award was created by APA. And we're very, very proud of that. We'd like to thank the council for your continued support of all of our planning efforts, which has led to all of our successes that we have enjoyed here in Louisville for the last 2 decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing, Mayor.
Thanks, Dave.
I have some good news to share as well. Back on Friday, November 5th, at the Texas Recreation and Park Society's North Region Workshop, the department was given 3 awards. One was the Recreation Facility Design Excellence Award, was given to the city and to BRS for the design of Thrive. The Communications Award was given to our marketing and outreach team and the holiday social media campaign built around Parker, the Louisville Parks and Recreation elf from last year's holiday season.
And then Brandon Bernard with our Play Louisville on Wheels team, our PLOW team, was recognized as the part-time employee of the year for his efforts over the last 2 years to establish the program and connect with residents in the most difficult of times. And then the team that we've been working with from the University of North Texas, their Collaborative Urban Planning Association. They're an undergraduate student organization. They won first place at the American Planning Association's Cross-Chapter Collaboration Conference in Fort Worth recently for their poster titled Quality of Life Planning for Justice and Equity, an analysis of the annexation of Castle Hills and the proposition of the Sam Rayburn Inclusivity Investment Project, talking about how the annexation of Castle Hills into Louisville and how that impacts environmental justice issues in North Texas. So that's pretty exciting. And I have one more coming up on Thursday at the Green Source DFW Sustainability Leadership Awards. It's going to be a virtual presentation. The Environmental Justice Award is going to be given to Tiara Chapman, who works out at Leela, for her efforts in inspiring Black connections and leadership in nature. So we're very proud of our team at the Parks and Recreation Department.
It's a great list. Thank you.
No report, Mayor.
Mayor, we're quite proud of our water treatment plant today. They received an award last week from the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality for a 5-year award for participation in the TOPS program, which is the Texas Optimization Program, and it basically sets higher standards for water quality for our drinking water system, and we've been an active participant in that program for a very long time. Sometimes we do lose that award, so we have been able to put 5 years back together again, and we're very proud of that. And just as a side note, we do take that water out of Lake Lewisville, which is at 520.85, which is 1 foot, a little more than 1 foot below the normal pool level. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted to mention that the Louisville Library is now issuing cards to homebound residents of Denton County. It's a new application. It's available online, or people can pick it up at the library and bring it to a family member. We're just very excited that people who are at home will have an opportunity to use our online resources, or if they have a family member who can come in and pick up physical materials, check out materials and return them for them.
That's great. Thank you.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Thanks, sir.
Mayor and Council, I wanted to remind everyone that we are currently seeking resident feedback on neighborhood revitalization programs. So this is through our Zen City survey that is available online until Friday, November 19th, and that's seeking input on programs such as our Property Enhancement Program, Neighborhood Enhancement Program, and Love Your Block.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Ferris? Councilmember Green?
I don't have anything to report, but I would just like to take a moment to say welcome to our new neighbors in Castle Hills, and also congratulations to staff and everyone who has worked on this. Just looking at the agenda tonight and all of the items, you can kind of see all of the different things that have been impacted by Castle Hills, and this is not even a complete list of all the moving parts that have been going on. And I've been part of this team for about 2.5 years, and that was just, you know, the very, very end. This has been going on for 25 years. So congratulations to all of you. I believe Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Jones has offered to buy cases of wine for a few people.
See, this is why you don't listen to an architect when you're talking about numbers.
Well, I heard that too, though. I heard that. It was cases.
No,
So
ma'am.
just saying. So congratulations to everyone. This is a huge accomplishment, and we did it.
Councilmember Jones?
So just for correction, there were cases. I'm a simple working man, but
Well, it was at least one bottle each, though.
I'm going to take care of you, Donna. Don't worry. I got it all set up, and I'm getting Dr. Pepper for our city attorney because she doesn't drink wine. But
There you go.
I want to actually kind of piggyback on what Mayor Pro Tem Green said, because this was a marathon of an event starting back in '96 for the city of Louisville, when Ronnie Kay was a council member then, and she came back full circle to get it done. But I mean, whether you go back to mayor.
I know I'm about to wake up and I'm going to be back in 1996 right now. I am just dreaming about this.
I take it I have more hair than. But I want to thank our staff, present, past, city managers, mayors. We got to see Mayor Durham today, which was great. Everyone who had something to do with the residents who were patiently waiting to come into the city. You are now Louisvillians. Welcome. We welcome everybody in, and it's just going to be a great time getting to know them and them getting to know us.
Very good.
Councilmember Kate?
Yeah, I was waiting for the song to chime in that we are family, you know, after that. Just piggybacking off what they said, this has been, 2.5 decades worth of unforeseeable things, but completing something that no one thought we would ever get there. But we did, and it's not over yet, but the big part's over. So welcome to Louisville Castle Hills residents, and we're happy to have you. Good job, staff. Good job, as always. You stepped up to the plate and then some.
Donna, would it be all right if I save you for last?
Sure.
I have some Louisville Public Library activities for the week. Book for Murder Mystery Book Club, Tuesday, November 16th, 2 to 3 p.m. No registration required, Crawford Meeting Room. The November book selection is She Lies in Wait by Geetha Lodge. Había una vez for families with children of all ages, Tuesday, November 16th, 6 to 6:30. The ticket is required at the Bennett Program Room. Join the library staff for a bilingual story time with books, songs, and rhymes in English and Spanish. Tween Scene for children ages 9 to 12, Wednesday, November 17th, 4:30 to 5:30. Ticket required at the Bennett Program Room. Science, art, technology, the library has it all.
Councilmember Troyer?
Yes, I want to echo what's already been said about the annexation effort. It was a marathon, and thanks to everyone who worked on it. I also want to compliment those of you who planned the celebration this afternoon. It was effective, but it wasn't drawn out. It was very, simple, and it was a good celebration ceremony. So I appreciated that. I do have some things going on at the Louisville Grand Theater during the next several weeks. First of all, for performances, the Traveling Red River Songwriters will be presented by the City of Louisville on November 19th. That's Friday night. There is limited seating for that, so get there early or get your tickets early. The Lake Cities Ballet is putting on 2 performances. First of all, on the 26th, the Nutcracker will be performed. And then on the 28th, which is Sunday, the Nutty Nutcracker will be performed. So 2 performances of the Nutcracker, one of which is nutty. Anyway, Highlights Films is presenting the Highlights Awards on Sunday, December 5th. And as always, the Acoustic Jam presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville takes place every Friday night from 6 to 9. Art exhibitions going on right now, Call of the Wild, presented by the Visual Art League of Louisville. That continues through November 27th. Day of the Dead, also by the Visual Art League of Louisville, also through November 27th. Holiday Magic, again by the Visual Art League, is continuing through December 31st. And then finally, the Gift of Art, presented by the City of Louisville, will be in the gallery from December 4th to the 23rd. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Plaster, do you have anything? Ms. Heinze? Anything? All right. Ms. Barron?
Sure. As Jason Hughes said earlier, today's been definitely a surreal experience. So I talked to Chuck Owens today, who was a city manager back in '96 when this agreement was signed. And I just remember when staff looked at this project, this agreement, and we just couldn't really grasp what it was. It was Chuck, you know, he had that vision, and he saw it. And I was very sad that he couldn't be with us today, but he was not able to. But he does want a tour, and I've promised that to him. So this has been a project that's taken many, many years and will have huge impacts on the city of Louisville for many years to come. This happened because of many people over time. Eric and I have sat around and we've talked about all of our memories from the early days with Eric on the development side. Joe Barrett was on the finance director originally, and lots of memories of Joe walking to my office going, man, I don't know about this. So there were lots of challenges. Brenda Martin and all the many hours that she spent. You know, Brenda attended all of the board meetings with all of the different districts, and it was just such an asset as we worked through this process. This is a team, and it's been a team that's worked on this since 1996. I'm really blessed that I'm the person that got to sit in the seat when this actually occurred, but it's not with anything that I did. It's what we did as a team over many, many years. This is a dedicated staff. We want what's best for the community, and we're so glad to have the wonderful residents. We got to know a lot of people as we've been working through the education process, and I'm just excited that they're going to officially be a part of our community. I'm going to tell you, we definitely have a bright future with Castle Hills as part of our community.
Thank you. I have nothing but thanks and praise for everyone, and I'm sure if I point any singular person out, it'll be to the detriment because I'll forget somebody else who was so important. And like Donna, I am blessed and lucky to be here in this position at this time. I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people who did a lot of work. I'm proud of you all. I do want to let people know about a few things coming up, however, because now that folks in Castle Hills are part of the neighborhood, we need to also make sure everybody knows what we can do going into the holiday season, because we will not have a council meeting between now and Thanksgiving. So I hope you all have a blessed holiday with your family, and we have a lot to be thankful for this year. I do want to remind folks that instead of giving your family a gift card or a picture of something you printed off the internet to put in a box with a note on the bottom saying, to be delivered when the supply chain figures it out, you might want to consider our First Friday event coming up here in Old Town, and that'll be on December 3rd. So it'll be the first Friday, comes right on up. We have a new business downtown called Odin Leather Crafters. They actually have a store out in the colony, but he has his workshop here, so I'm very excited to see him. I think he opened this past weekend. But come on down to First Friday on the 3rd. Of course, on the 4th, we have the holiday stroll. So we will be out here again with our holiday parade, all sorts of stuff going on from the morning with the Rotary Club and their wonderful breakfast, all the way through to me getting to help Santa with the tree. Very excited about that. And then, of course, Santa will be cruising the neighborhoods with our fire department, and that's all the neighborhoods, all the way across Louisville. I think what's really interesting about that one, a lot of residents don't know this, is that actually also serves as training hours for our drivers. So it's kind of a twofer when we get out there to drive the neighborhoods, to make sure the community is safe, but also to have Santa on the back. So who knows, he may have an elf or two that are up here on the dais helping him out that night. So that will all start up, I think, on the 7th. So with that, we do need to move into closed section. So in accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.072, Real Estate Property Acquisition, and Section 551.087, Economic Development, Deliberation regarding Economic Development Negotiations, we will move into closed session. Council, do we have any other business to consider?
Move to adjourn.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. And it is 8:20.